In this session, we look at a question on limiting factor decisions, right? So, with this being said, we have been given a question: consider the following cost and production possibilities of product A, B, and C. Okay, so it says here that we have budgeted material requirement of 20,000, but what is available is 15,000, meaning there's a shortage. That tells us that what budgeted material or material cost or materials available, that's material kgs, are the limiting factors. So it is telling us to decide on which product to produce using materials as a limiting factor. It is said, it has already been given that material is the limiting factor. But most of the time, you need to check. So you remember the steps I told you that you always need to determine the limiting factor. Also, determine the limiting factor. So how do we normally do this? If this wasn't given straightforward, that means you need to determine the limiting factor by testing material kgs, right? So I ask myself, what is the kg available for production? We have what? 15,000 kgs available for production. How much is required for production? You get it? So you have to compare the two to know how much you actually require for production. Now, if I take product A, I know that I require what, 4 kg for every unit, right? Per unit. But that is only for one unit. But how many units do we produce and sell? We are producing 2,000 units for sale, right? That means 4 2. That means we need 8,000 kg for production. For product B, we need 7 kg for every unit. But how many units do we need for production? That means you are producing 8,000 units. That means we need what? 56. 56? 7 by 8,000. Yes, that's 56,000 kg. We require 56,000 kg for production. And then when we come to product C, we need 2 kg for every unit, but we are producing 3,000. That means we need 6,000 units, 6,000 hours to produce. That means at the end of the day, we will require about what? That's 8,000 plus 56,000 plus 6,000 to produce. And that is about 70,000. So I think the middle one should have been 800 to make it 20,000 kg required. It's not 8,000, it should be 800. It should be 800 rather. This should have been 800. So if it is 800, it should be 560, right? But no problem. That means we need 70,000, but we have 15,000 available. That means you have a shortage of how much? You have a shortage of 55,000 kgs. That tells us that what? Material kgs is the limiting factor. Mostly that is how we do it in the exam. But this question has told us that what we have budgeted to require is 20, but we only have 15,000 available. So now that you know that material quantity is the limiting factor, the next step is actually to determine what? Your contribution per unit. So what do you do then? Determining your contribution per unit. That's the next thing to do. So contribution per unit. Also, so contribution per unit has already been given. We have A, we have B, and we have C. So we have contribution per unit, which is actually your selling price minus your variable cost. Now this has already been given. We can see that A is 12, B is 14, and C is 8. That means the next step is to find your contribution per unit of the limiting factor, which is material kg, right? Because we know that this 12 we are making is for 4 kg. But how much is 1 kg? This 14 we are making is for 7 kg. But how much for 1 kg? The same for the 8 cds is for 2 kg. So we want for A, what is the contribution for 1 kg, right? So this one is 12 cds. but we are producing for 4 kg. So how much for just 1 kg? That means for every 1 kg, we are actually going to make contribution of 3 cedis per kg. Not so, which is 12 divided by 4. When we go to B, that means it is what? 14, right? It's 14 cedis. But we need 7 kg to make the 14. So how much kg? We need 2 cedis per kg. Not so. We want to see the one which will be produced to be more profitable. When we look at C, we are making 8 cedis for 2 kg. Now, so if we use 2 kg, we make 8 cedis. But for 1 kg, how much do we make? That means we make 4 cedis per what? Per kg. Then the next thing you need to do is to rank. Okay, you rank them in order of the one which makes the highest contribution per the scarce resource. So in terms of ranking, also in terms of ranking, I know A, B, and C. Which one had the highest contribution per limiting factor? I think it was C. C would be the first in ranking. Also, then followed by what? A being the second in ranking, and then followed by B being the third in ranking. So you rank, then you prepare an optimum production plan. That's the next step after the ranking, which is the step 4. You prepare what? An optimum production plan. People have different ways of producing this optimum production plan, not so. So some questions, instead of telling you to produce optimum production plan, it can tell you to find what we call the profit maximizing output. Okay, that is the output or the units to produce that will make you what? The best profit, right? The profit maximizing output or your optimum production plan. So I start this with my kgs because I want to know how to manage this. So what is the available kgs for production? What is the kgs available for production? You know that the material kgs available for production is what? 15,000 kgs, not so. But let's see, according to the product and its rank, to know which one you should be producing first. So product and rank and how much to use, right? So the first in ranking was product C. How many kgs did we require? So for product C, we required what? We required 2 kg, not so, but we were producing 3,000 units. Can we produce all? Yes, we can. So in that case, all the 6,000 units can be produced. Also, so how many units do you have remaining? Or how many hours do you have remaining? That means you have what? 9,000 hours remaining to produce. Now we go to the next in ranking, which is product A, which is second in ranking. How many hours did it, how many kg, sorry, not hours. It needed what? 4 kg, but we were producing 2,000. Can we take all out? Yes, we can. That means we can take all the 8,000 kg required, not so, out of the 15,000. That means all we have left remaining is what? Is what? 1,000 kgs. But for the product B, not so, which was third in ranking, it actually needed how many hours? How many kgs? It required 7 kgs. So how much or how many 7 kgs can give us 1,000 kgs? So if you want to know that, all you have to do is that you are saying that, okay, if every 1 unit I need 7 kg, then 1,000, how many kgs would I need? You can just divide this 1,000 kg by the 7 kg. Also, 1,000 is what is left. So you utilize all. 1,000 kg by the 7 kg to see how many units you can produce for this guy. We know this guy you can produce 3,000 units, this guy 2,000 units. But remember, we are finding the profit maximizing output. That means production units. So if I divide 1,000, by 7, I end up with what? 142 units. Okay, that means we can use this 1,000 kg to produce 142 units more. So this is the case when you are doing make or buy decisions, you realize that we have some extra units, right? We needed about, I think, 2,000 no, about 8,000 units and also. So if we can produce only 142 units out of what 8,000, then the rest, if there's an external supplier who can take it up, we can outsource to that external supplier to take the rest and produce for us. If only his price is cheaper than how much it will cost us to produce. You get it? So we are going to look at limiting factor and the make or buy decisions as well as we go forward. After we look at make or buy decisions. Okay, so this is what you do. Now that we know the profit maximizing output, okay, so when I finish, I'm now going to what? Put down the profit maximizing output. Okay. So I'm going to say company, the company must produce 3,000 units of C, also 2,000 units of A, and 142 units of B to maximize profit. So management accounting is all about what? Interpretation or commentary. So this is what we call the profit maximizing output, right? Profit maximizing output. How much you should produce to make this profit, right? So in that case, since we have no fixed cost in this question, then we can find our maximum possible profit, not so, our maximum possible profit, which is still our contribution. And that's the last step, which is our step 6. So in that case, when I want my total contribution, also for each product, when I take product A, its contribution was what? Contribution per unit was 12, but we are producing what? 142 units. When I take B, its contribution was 14, but we are producing, no, A, we were producing how many units? Sorry, it's not 142. For product A, we were producing 2,000 units of A, then 14 by 142 units of B, and for product C, we were producing, we're making contribution of 8, but we're producing 3,000 units. Not so. So now this gives us our maximum possible contribution. Okay, because there were no fixed costs. That means the contribution will be equal to the profit. So 12 by 2,000, that's, this guy makes total profit of 24,000 after we produce those units. This guy 14 by 142, we make 1988. Then we have 24,000 again for this one. Okay, so when we add, that means we have approximately 50,000, but 49,988 to be our maximum profit, right? Because there were no fixed cost, contribution will be equal to profit. So this is how you go about it. The 6-step criteria or the 6-step approach to solving limiting factor decisions. I'll come and take another limiting factor question where we go through and look at where we have 2 or more elements that you have to check for limiting factor. Then after that, we take a look at throughput accounting decisions.